Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for some Raceface action, and it is time for us to head into round 4 here at Silverstone. And of course, I'm joined again by my good friend, Ryan Gill. Ryan, good to have you with me, and of course, you're handling our cams this evening, so, you know, all from my side, thanks for coming and joining once again.
It's no problem, George. Hot off the heels of the G2 esports series, I'm right back in there again, broadcasting the action, and of course, happy to be here alongside you in the commentary box for what should be a pretty exciting race at my home circuit.
Exactly that. You know, I could not have you here when we came out to Silverstone. Of course, no one better suited to give us those onboards and those run-throughs where we need them. So, you know, looking at the leaderboard so far, looks like up at the top, Junior McCall doing things well so far. He's jumped off into the pits as well to make some changes out to his setup. But for the moment, a 209.966 coming out to put him in pole position. Mornay Deploy hot on his heels. Currently the man that we are looking at the moment with a 210.953. So, I mean, he's got some time to make up. I think that's maybe why Junior's jumped himself into the pits. He's got some, he's got a little bit of time between him and second place.
Definitely does, and so we watch Deploy come around now. It's coming towards the end of the lap here. Of course, Silverstone, one of the longer tracks we have here in ACC. Just under 2 minutes, isn't it, for a GT3 lap time around here?
That's exactly, you know, just under that. So the 150, sixes sometimes coming out from the Alien, 7s generally okay. But yeah, I mean, a little bit slower here, and we like the GT4s because they kind of give us a little bit of closer racing between the drivers when it comes down to the ability to follow. There's not so much aero variation. So really, when it comes down to it, these cars they're a lot of fun, and generally get some good racing out on track. And of course, having a sprint race out here, 45 minutes, no mandatory stop for them to do. It's all to play for. You need to make sure that you have a sort of on-pace hot lap every step of the way if you want to stay up at the front. Mark van Rensburg currently in second place, chasing down Junior. He's managed to get a smidge closer than Deploy did before him. So right now, lot to play for, and he's currently looking good on his lap time, Ryan.
He is looking good on his lap time, and, well, just if we look at Van Rensburg, I mean, 66 thousandths of a second off of the likes of Junior McCall, so bringing it pretty close. Of course, Morgan McCall is also here in the session. He's down in 14th at the moment, yet to go out on track, I believe. So, Morgan McCall biding his time, it seems, but we do only have just under 12 minutes left of qualifying here, George. So, considering how long an outlap around here is, a couple of these guys that haven't got laps out on the board yet, haven't gone out to set a lap yet, probably going to have to be getting a move on.
Oh, exactly that. You can't wait it out forever, and we do see that the grip levels increase towards the end of the sessions. The cars obviously are all out here putting in the hot laps, definitely bring a little bit more grip levels into play. So, you know, maybe some of the drivers that we see sitting in those pit boxes, just waiting it out to get down into that final sort of 8-minute slot where they can get out to the couple of laps that they need. I mean, I'm a driver that generally wants to get as many qualifying laps in as possible. I can't sort of risk it to get the biscuit at the end and just grab a session right at the end. So, you know, it's one of those situations. Either that's what you can do and you can handle the pressure, and we've seen the likes of Morgan McCall come in and steal a pole position on the final lap. So, you know, maybe he can, maybe he can't. We'll have to wait out and see it. Shout out to our viewers, of course, for joining us tonight. The Raceface GT4 Season 2 Round 4 at Silverstone, proudly sponsored up by Black Ribbon Simulations and Resource Complete. So we see you guys in the chat. Sebo Maloto, Robert Wenworth, Jan Els, Pierre Grindeling, I think I've said your name correctly in the chat. Sometimes we get the drivers' names incorrect in the races, you know, because we just can't get the pronunciation right. But they give us the way to say it. So, chat, you're also welcome to correct us if we get that wrong. But good to have you all with us. And looking forward to this. Final 10-minute shootout begins. Last couple of laps for these guys to get those times in. Looking at Ryan Ottens from KK Racing in that number 64. Currently within the top 10 in 9th. Comes around looking good to potentially get a good couple of laps in. And Ryan, he needs to do so. Needs to make the most of it here. Oh.
You definitely does as well, and he was 7/10 of a second up on his lap time. He's not 7/10 up anymore. He's lost 4/10 coming into the stadium section now. And he's going to have to hope that he can try and recover some of that lap time. 7/10 of a second would have put him challenging around the top 6 at the moment, and in fact he's gone and lost all of that time that he had gained. So Ryan Ottens is going to have to go and try again. Someone who is on a very good lap at the moment though, Darren Peens in the Porsche Cayman, coming towards the end of his lap. He's up by 1 second according to my timing sheet here, George. 1.1 just now as he comes through the final corner here. He's going to be making his way up towards the start-finish straight. It's a very, very long lap here at Silverstone. Just over 8 minutes left on the clock. But Darren Peens, 1 second up on his lap time. How far is this going to throw him up? Throw him up to 9th. So the lone Cayman on the grid goes up to 9th to put himself into the top 10.
Does indeed. So good showing coming out from Peens at the end of that lap, but still 8 minutes to go. Things could change up. 4th to 6th currently in the pits, so those positions could be up for grabs to any of the drivers below them. So to Blanche, Peens, Ottens, Brits, McGear and Paolo all potentially maybe getting themselves up the mark. Mark van Rensburg has done well for Team Hulk to secure a 1-2 here. Charles Wilkin has entered the playing arena. Junior McCall gets knocked down to 3rd in the final 7 minutes here. So Wilkin and Van Rensburg, a little hot combo in the Aston Martins, and of course painted ever so beautifully in their Hulk colors. They've got the purple wheels or their pants, and of course the big torso of the Aston Martin in that bright green. So Wilkin and Van Rensburg definitely identifiable out on circuits, and what a better way to put your cars into the eyes of the viewers than to put them up at the front of the starting grid. So 7 minutes to go. Things could still change up, Ryan, but so far good showing from Team Hulk.
It is a good showing indeed, George, and second place at the moment. Won't improve on this lap time for Van Rensburg, and he's going to pull over as well, so maybe one more quick stint out for him in qualifying. But not looking bad at the moment on the front row of the grid. Of course, some of the other Aston Martins around the field. Charles Wilkin obviously on provisional pole at the moment. Sheehan down in 7th. He's got to Blanche in 8th, just behind him. And then, of course, a few Aston Martins dotted elsewhere around, 10th and 11th as well. So, Aston Martin, very high representation here at the Raceface GT4 Championship, and always good to see the home manufacturer doing well. Home turf.
Certainly a hotly picked up motor vehicle for the series, that's for sure. I think, counting it out, most popular manufacturer on the grid. So onto the splitter cam we go from that Aston Martin GT4 Vantage as he makes his way down through Brooklands. And is that was Brooklands, right, Ryan?
It was into Brooklands and out of Luffield. So
okay,
Luffield
into
is
Brooklands and
Luffield, the long
hairpin.
right-hander.
I got you. So Sheehan's still a little bit in him. Hasn't quite found his rhythm just yet. Still looking to find a little bit more. Is a 10th up, so a little bit more to play for. Knows that he can. A 10th here isn't quite going to get him ahead of Moten in front, but if you can find an extra 10th from that, then potentially he's there. So he needs to find what he can. He's 3/10ths up, out to the exit of Chapel, and onto the hanger straight he goes. Out through Stowe. Still remains hanging on to the 3/10ths and doing a good job here. And that 3/10ths is certainly worth getting up, potentially past Vickers in 6th place. So potentially 2 places on the grid up for grabs here from Sheehan.
Yeah, but he's got one of the hardest parts of the circuit to navigate now. Of course, going down into Vale and through Club, very difficult part of the circuit, but this is where you can lose so much time now coming into the stadium section. Breaks into Village. Doesn't want to go too wide here, goes very wide in fact. And then into the loop, and now we'll try to get a really good exit out of Aintree. And completely flat, you need to try and take as much of the inside as you can without cutting, of course, and try and run it as wide as possible. Sheehan can't quite do that, and unfortunately the half a second he had up on his previous time, he has now lost as he comes into Brooklands and will make his way out of Luffield. He's got enough time for 2 more flying laps, and he may still improve on this one as he looks to come out of Luffield. He was up by a 10th. And will he improve coming up towards the timing line? He sits 1.7 off pole. He closes in slightly more, but he will remain 8th with 3 minutes of the session to go.
Unfortunately, not going to be enough to get him up towards the front. The Team Hulk boys are still out on track, still putting in the lap times. And now Mark van Rensburg trying to better his time up to his teammate, Charles Wilkin, with a blistering 209.2 coming out. So 7/10ths off 2nd place and off his teammates, Mark van Rensburg. Mark van Rensburg coming into a little bit of traffic as well, is currently 4/10ths up on his time. Oh, he's lost it all coming out through the exits of Aintree now, down to a 10th. And that's not what he wanted down onto the back of the Wellington straight here. He's lost it down. He had a chance to get that gap down to within 3/10ths of his teammates, Wilkin, but for now, Van Rensburg gonna have to just get his head down and try once again. We see him rounding out, and this will be potentially one of his last laps that he gets out, and this is where the pressure starts. This is where, if you can, you got to make it all count. And riding on board here with Van Rensburg, we'll get a little look to see how it feels out on circuit.
So on board for the final lap with the GT4. Oh, I think that was Sheehan, I think, in the 46, just coming out of the pit lane a bit late. And almost having contact with the Team Hulk Aston Martin, but fortunately contact is avoided, and he's up by 2/10ths of a second coming out of Chapel. Down the hanger straight. Famous straight coming all the way down to Stowe Corner. Fantastic overtakes in all sorts of series performed along here, and one of the GT4s moving out of the way. Van Rensburg seems to have lost some of that time along the straight. Couldn't capitalise on some of the slipstream effect that you do get in these GT4 cars. Now he comes into Vale and through Club here. Fantastic viewing opportunities for the spectators. There'll be a hotel on the left-hand side of the track built in just a year's time. And now
Ryan, I just have to alert you while we do this that Junior McCall up 3/10ths at the moment.
Ooh.
In 3rd, so that one's also a good one to keep an eye out on.
Well, we will keep an eye on it then, as Junior McCall. Oh, and Van Rensburg. Well, that's going to be the end of his lap. Made a mistake and has decided that it's not worth continuing on. Puts it into the wall, and that will be the best he'll do in qualifying. But as he said, the McCall brothers up on their lap time. More specifically, Junior McCall 3/10 up on his lap time. The timer has expired. He comes up towards the line. The ATK Academy driver will go second. 4/10 off of pole position for Junior McCall. We wait to see what Morgan McCall can do. He's also up by 4/10 of a second. But I don't think it's going to be enough to overthrow his brother for second on the grid.
Could potentially knock Van Rensburg down a little bit and put a little ATK meat between the Hulk sandwich. And he will round out, come down towards the timing line now. And he will indeed do that. Joins his brother just behind in third place. Van Rensburg down to fourth. Mornay Duploy takes home fifth place. Sixth will be Chris Vickers, starting in 7th, Jam Muton, 8th for Warren Sheehan, 9th for Stephen Tablanche. Darren Pience rounds out the top 10. Tebo Maloto got to set that time. I hadn't set one before. Will cross over the timing line in a bit, so he's still got half a lap to go. And this is gonna count for him because, of course, doesn't want to start all the way at the back of the grid. Long slog to make up positions. And in a 45-minute race, it's brutal on the car, the tires, having to push to those limits. The 808 comes out towards entry now. And Maloto looking for something, Ryan, down the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, it kind of feels a bit like a Super Pole lap, doesn't it? He's got the entire track to himself. And we'll be coming in here. Ooh, seems to have overcompensated a bit for coming into Brooklands. And that's compromised his entry and his exit from Luffield as well. So he'll have lost some time there. Comes up towards the timing line for Sibo Miloto. And I don't think this one's going to be very quick. No, it won't. It'll only put him 15th.
Not what he wanted. And like you said, coming into Brooklands, that's where things just didn't go right for him. And he had to get on those anchors, stop himself from invalidating the lap running into that runoff zone. And yeah, the brakes cost him at the end, and we'll have to settle for 15th place. So we'll get a nice little fly through of our grid. Ryan's been practicing a little camera work maneuver. So look at the drone view coming down. We'll get a little run through of our drivers. Starting in first place, of course, Charles Wilkin. Alongside him, Junior McCall in second. His brother, Morgan McCall from ATK Academy, joins him in third. Mark van Rensburg, Team Hulk, joins him in fourth. Mornay Deploy in fifth. Chris Vickers starts sixth. Seventh for Giam Muton in that number 13. Warren Sheehan in eighth. Ninth for Stephen Tablanche. 10th for Darren Pience, 11th for Ryan Ottens, 12th Mike McGeer, 13th starts Jean-Andre Brits, 14th Diego Paulo, 15th Tebo Maloto, and Hannes van Veek rounds out the back of the grid in that number 27 from PWR. And what a grid we have here today for the GT4 round 4, season 2. For the Raceface season. And big shout out to our sponsors, Black Ribbon Simulations and Resource Complete, for being a part of all the action. And a big shout out to Ryan for joining me today. Our drivers preparing themselves to pull away in that single format formation for that formation lap to get some tire warmth in and maybe a little bit into the brakes. No tire warmers for the GT4s, as we mentioned. So they do start here at Silverstone on very, very cold tires. And very shortly, our race director will allow them to pull away. And so he does. Charles Wilkin, in his brightly colored Aston Martin Vantage in the GT4 class, will take us away. The number 3, Hulk Fiend. Suddenly, the likes of Junior McCall joins the shot and gives us a chance to talk about the custom liveries as well, Ryan, that Raceface allows. We always like to see a little custom paint job, don't we?
Oh, I mean, liveries, they're our bread and butter, aren't they, George? I mean, we could do an entire series on liveries, couldn't we? And that's actually probably a quite good idea. I think we'll bookmark that one for later. But no, yeah, it's awesome to see custom liveries out there. Obviously, they have their quirks in ACC, should we say? Not the easiest to use, not the easiest to develop, and definitely not too friendly to some of the live stewarding or replay features that we love to use here in broadcasting, but it is always nice to see people putting time into their liveries and representing their team, their brand, and for a few of these guys as well, their sponsors.
So important to always be able to you know, give back to the people that, you know, empower your racing, if it so be that way, and you know, even to the people that just want to start something for fun and create a team of drivers that just want to drive under a banner. Also cool to just you know, get something going that aligns that. So yeah, big fan of custom liveries, like you said, and unfortunately our replay functionality does get affected as such. But it is a little sacrifice we're willing to make for a little bit of creativity from our drivers. And some nice drone work comes out and gives us a look at that ATK Academy Mercedes. Beautifully designed. I love the fade of the logos down the top, from the bonnet down the top of the roof. And of course, Yelo Designs doing the design work. Good work coming out, and beautiful looking car on the grid indeed. So not long to go before the start of our race, before we get that green flag. Of course, should be some good racing out here. 45 minutes in the GT4s, our pro division for Raceface. Some big names in the racing community, and some names that are making their way up into the well-known ranks. It's always a bit of a mixture, and always cool to develop the series. So if you guys haven't signed up and want to get involved, the seasons remain open until the very last race for both the GT4s and GT3s. So, you know, if you do want to get involved and there's only a couple of races left, you can jump in at any time. And if you haven't joined us for some social racing on Monday nights, the Monday Night Racing crew is the perfect place for you guys to live and learn sim racing. So come and join both our Discord channels, Monday Night Racing and of course the Raceface Discord, if you want to get involved in some sim racing here. Charles Wilkin will line us up into 2x2. Junior McCall will go alongside him, and on the second row, of course, Morgan McCall and Van Rensburg. So big team shootout coming down into the start of this race, Ryan. And looking forward to seeing where things go. Waiting very shortly and patiently for the green flag to get waved. And the race director sending us away for the start of this fourth round. And green, green, green is the signal we get. Wilkin away. He's going to have the inside line. Will he be challenged out here a little bit by Junior? Junior and Charles having some big side-by-side contacts coming into that first Cops Corner complex. And now it will be Team Hulk to chase down. Wide goes Morgan in the background as they come into Maggots and Beckett's. And that's going to cost him some time potentially to deploy. Let's see how they come out. So it will be Junior McCall up at the front, and it will be Wilkin to chase him down. His teammate Van Rensburg will be in third place. And then it will be, I think, Deploy in fourth. He has got himself up there. No, it will be Vickers. Vickers jumps up to fourth. McCall down to fifth. Deploy demoted to sixth. Moten 7th, Sheehan 8th, Piens 9th, and Ottens 10th.
Well, what a start to the GT4 race. Of course, Morgan McCall losing out early on here, and the Camaro has benefited from that Nice to see the Camaro, the number 79, but more importantly, Charles Wilkin lost the race lead on the first corner. Bit of argy-bargy with the likes of Junior McCall, but nothing too serious, and there doesn't seem to have been any significant incidents on lap 1 either so far.
I mean, they both kind of gave each other a bit of a challenge. I think, Junior came all the way across through Cops onto that inside apex where Wilkin had the inside line. And then Wilkin runs, Junior out wide, out through the exit of Cops, kind of unsettles his car a little bit. And that's where Junior got the run. Pience here getting a good run on Ottens. Ottens, of course, in 9th. 10th place for Pience in the Cayman, the 171. Will chase down the K number 64 in front. Back behind this, Morgan McCall will switch places back with Vickers, get himself back into the potential podium positions. Get himself into 4th with the chase onto Van Rensburg for the podium. So Morgan McCall did drop down a fair amount there after running wide out through Maggots Beckett's at the start of that race, but he's now got his focus goggles on. The ATK Academy number 199 Mercedes will begin that chase. He's definitely dispatched of Vickers behind, and that's exactly what you want to do, Ryan. You want to get past and get into some close, clean air. Look at those Team Hulk Aston Martins chasing down the likes of McCall in front though, Ryan.
Yeah, both Team Hulk cars stalking down that sole ATK car at the front of the grid. And you kind of get the feeling that this is exactly what ATK wanted though at the start of the race. Probably didn't go exactly to plan with Morgan McCall dropping some places. But the one thing they would have wanted is they would have wanted Junior to get out in front. And that's exactly what he's done. And of course, the Hulk cars, who would have preferred to be leading the end of the first lap themselves, have now got to regroup, replan, and rethink their strategy. And thinking about a change in strategy, Van Rensburg on the back of Wilkin, thinking about having a move on his teammate, but not quite having the space or the pace to do so. And he will reevaluate his options now as Charles Wilkin starts to close in noticeably on to the back of Junior McCall.
But a block power going to be afforded to both teams at this point, so Junior can back both of the Team Hulk cars up to allow his brother to catch up if need be. But at this stage, he cannot afford to slow down. Is that is that just... Oh, Junior McCall has to go very defensive soon, because at the moment, Wilkin is just all over the back of him. You mentioned it before, Van Rensburg challenging onto Wilkin for a little bit coming down into Village. And that seems to have, not been the call between the teammates, not wanting that to be the battle that Wilkin has to worry about. And the number 3 being set free by his teammate number 31. He needs to get ahead of Junior as quick as he can. Cannot afford to waste his tires chasing him down. Wants to be able to have something towards the end of the race as well. And at this stage, this push is going to be costly to all the drivers involved. All 4 of these front-running cars, include Vickers in the mix of that. All front of these 5 running cars are pushing pretty hard for where they would be compared to a lot of the mid-pack guys who've settled into a good rhythm. So Wilkin continually will contest and try and find a little space past, but running a bit wide out there again has allowed Van Rensburg to close in on him. It'll be interesting to see if the call gets made. Morgan McCall has caught right up to all of this.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, George. If a call needs to be made, it needs to be made, kind of sooner rather than later there, because Van Rensburg looks quicker than Charles Wilkin at the moment. He's all over the back of his teammate. And, well, he's got Morgan McCall right on his back end now. And in fact, Van Rensburg is 6/10 down, 7/10 down, make it, on his personal best set so far this race, because he's having to defend, he's having to change his line. He's definitely quicker than the likes of Charles Wilkin. His personal best is 3/10 faster. Yes, we're still early days in the race, but he's got the pace earlier on at this phase of the race. He can challenge Junior McCall for that lead of the race, but has the moment slipped now? Have they lost their chance to switch those cars without losing too much time, and have they now separated this into two different segments of a battle?
Almost feels like that's exactly what's kind of transpired at this stage, because Van Rensburg now having older brother Morgan McCall from the 8K Academy putting the pressure on from behind, he's now not going to be able to extend those legs like we saw him potentially able to get out early on. Junior would have not liked to go up against the pace coming out, and Morgan is not just coming alone. He brings and drags Vickers with him in that number 79 Camaro. Again, one of the lone manufacturers in the series is Vickers in that number 79. So Morgan also can't really risk too much up against the likes of Mark van Rensburg in front of him. Needs to be careful of where he chooses to make those moves, because that Camaro is permanently just sniffing about, looking to see if someone drops some crumbs out from the battle on the table. And Morgan McCall will be wanting to get up. He made a mistake early on in the race, and that's cost him in getting to where he is. So for now, it's all about making up positions rather than having tried to gain on where he should have been early on. And again, you've talked about it. There's different grip levels at different stages of this race, and it all depends on where they've decided to, pick those fights up.
Definitely so, and here we are. Morgan McCall all over the back of Van Rensburg, and this is not what the number 31 Aston Martin would have wanted. Vickers is looking there in the background. He's looking interested in all this. He knows that if a mistake or an accident is entirely up for grabs, he can take away that fourth or even third place if both cars get tangled up. So just going to mind his business.
I was going to say, okay, if that gap gets left open a smidge by Van Rensburg, if he decides not to go defensive, he will get challenged by McCall every single night of the week. And, Morgan is one to rather let it go down to the stewards to decide if the move was fair or not. He'd rather risk it at the end of the day. So you have to know that, he will take a move. If the gap is there, he'll go for it. And if the door closes down, a contact will come in between them. So you cannot even leave it open for a split second when you've got the pressure of Morgan McCall behind you. And Vickers, of course, still dragged along, sort of forced along to, spectate what's happening in front. He just waiting out, just trying to see, can I potentially find something? These two in front are going to get, and look how much this battle has just brought the likes of Mark van Rensburg away from Charles Wilkin. So Wilkin now has to use this, has to take what his teammate's doing. He's almost, playing a bit of a blocker out to Morgan. Doesn't want to allow the 80K drivers to have that 1-3 position on their driver in second. So Van Rensburg has to make sure that he doesn't allow McCall past. And if he is going to have a move made, has to make McCall work for it. Doesn't want to give it away for free. Because in this position, again, it's not beneficial maybe for Van Rensburg. Maybe he feels like he could have been up the field. But for him right now, it's actually such an advantage to be able to almost control the pace of one of the team drivers that's competing in the championship as well.
Yeah, Charles Wilkin almost forced Van Rensburg into that role, and I'm sure Van Rensburg wouldn't really have wanted to be put into that role. He'd have rather preferred the role that Charles Wilkin has, but he is playing a very, very important role in the overall, strategy of this race. Of course, no pit stops here for the GT4 championship, so obviously you won't really be stopping at any point in time for fuel or tyres. It mainly just comes down to race pace, but like you said, if he can park that car there in between them, and he can prevent Morgan McCall closing up to the back of Charles Wilkin, or even getting past Van Rensburg, will be the better solution. He's giving Charles Wilkin all the possible time in the world to get a move done on the likes of Junior McCall. So Van Rensburg, you know, he's been forced into this role that he didn't really want to play. But you know what? Like a true team player, he's playing the role as best he can. And he's just put it all on the table and says, look, I'm doing my part. You have to do your part up front now.
It's exactly what's going down. And I mean, the race action between the top 5 has been, you know, incredible to just sort of witness out. They haven't really given us anything to look back towards the rest of the pack. So we can give you a bit of an update on where things stand. Artons and Deployed challenging each other for 7th and 8th, potentially out there. And Brits and Blanche in 12th and 13th are also within an arm's reach of one another. But up at the front, this is where things are important. Wilkin, he is closing the gap down. Was once half a second a couple of corners ago, down to 0.3 it goes. Wilkin on the hunt, and you know, I must be honest, the 0.3 looks like it's slacking off coming down into Village. Timing sheet not going to give us the best viewing point of where things stand, but it doesn't feel like that's 0.3 between them, and Wilkin maybe losing out coming into the third sector. Gotta see what he does out through Aintree and onto the Wellington straight. Will have to be a little bit closer to Junior to be able to get some slipstream over that 144 Mercedes. There is limited slipstream that you get in the GT4s, and behind them, Mark van Rensburg still playing defender out towards the likes of Morgan McCall. And I tell you what, Ryan, not an easy driver to defend against.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I've seen Morgan McCall here in quite a few GT3 and GT4 races now for Raceface, and even seen him come over to RCI and do some of the more international stuff. So, you know, I'm perfectly aware how quick these McCall brothers are, and you know, Van Rensburg doing a fantastic job at the moment. Vickers kind of just being a bit left out of this battle now. He's kind of found himself in a little bit of a bubble, but he is there in the event that anything happens, potentially capitalise. But it's a bit of a mirrored battle out at the front, isn't it? Where you've got an 80k car, where you've got an 80k sandwich kind of thing, don't you? The 80k cars are the bread, the Hulk cars are the meat, or the lettuce in this example, I guess would probably be the more accurate term, as Morgan McCall gets so close to the back of that Aston Martin. And this is one of the things that I find so amazing, George, is how drivers can get so close to the back of each other and not force that contact. They have an idea of how long the front end of that car is, and they can almost judge it to perfection a lot of the time.
I mean, it's almost to the limit that they do push it at times, and you gotta respect the levels of racecraft that the pro class does bring to the table, because that is exceptionally good to be able to get this close to one another at certain points, especially where you have to start exploring into the braking zone to make up those split seconds that are going to count towards making up that gap. And it's exactly what Morgan McCall's trying to do. He's trying to just reel in, trying to find where Van Rensburg is a little bit slower, a little bit more hesitant to get onto the brakes later. And he's got some slipstream. We talked about it. Needs to be a bit closer to really use it, but he does have that small little feather to use as well. So it's all about how much pace he can carry, especially down into the straights, the start-finish straights, the back of the hangar straights, as well as the Wellington straight. All the straights here rely on the momentum you have before. The GT4 is not the power class that the GT3s are, so it's about that balancing level. They're unforgiving if you get things wrong, but at the same time, you know, you can push them to a limit that you can't really always push in the other classes. You're always finding a little bit more, using a lot of the curb. On the splitter cam here, you can see through maggots we go. A lot of curb, bit of dust getting kicked up. 30 minutes to go in the race. Out through the exit of Chapel and onto the back of the start for the hangar stretch. And this is where McCall can maybe challenge in the braking zone. Van Rensburg staying defense on the inside. McCall, where's he going to go? Fakes it out, goes around the outside, going to chuck it in. They are going to go alongside the drive from the Aston Martin. Gonna be here, but McCall around the outside, still going down. Will have the inside down into the chicane. Where does he go on the brakes? Is gonna force it through. I did say that if there's space, he's gonna make it. Inside will be there for the number 31. Needs to carry the speed through. Will have the inside. This is phenomenal driving between the GT4 drivers, giving each other space, giving each other room, and onto the track McCall will come. He goes around off the track, comes out in front, and that's the move done for now on Van Rensburg. McCall gets through, but the fireback is going to be there. McCall is run wide. He's made a big mistake, going to have to go through the escape road to be able to get onto the brakes, and once a mistake is always a mistake, he needs to then make back up to this. Van Rensburg keeps cool, calm, and collected and regains that position that he lost.
The commitment from Van Rensburg to keep that throttle pin, to keep on the inside, on the outside when he had to. I mean, if you've never raced side by side with someone, you have no idea how difficult that is to do. And to do it for, what was it, about 5 corners, I think it was? Absolutely incredible. And, well, Morgan McCall thought he'd got through, and then, of course, went wide, made a mistake, and, of course, now he's got to do it all over again. And Van Rensburg, he's going to be shouting at Charles Wilkin now, get past Junior McCall, because I don't have much time left to keep Morgan McCall at bay if it's going to keep up like this. I get the feeling that, like you said, George, it's going to be sooner rather than later, and it's not a question of if, it's a matter of when Morgan McCall will get past Van Rensburg. Things keep up the way they are.
It's all the lead up to that, because McCall has just showed his cards. He's exposed the fact that he's willing to go and tango out in the barbed wire if he needs to, and he doesn't care for his ankles if he risks it on lines that you don't explore normally. So right now the likes of Chris Vickers also entering into the shot again. Our Camaro might get in on this because McCall has taken a little bit of time to recover after that big mistake, after his nice overtake on this exact portion of the track that we look at now with our leaders Wilkin and McCall. Of course, Junior still leads out on the number 3 of Wilkin, and Wilkin does not seem to have that last little bit that he needs. He needs almost a slight tuning of his Aston Martin engine, which he cannot do in the GT4s. It's all regulated to be where it is, and his Vantage just is not finding any sort of space to get by, and he's still trying to hold on. He's still trying to dive into the slipstream where he can, and Junior is just not allowing him to do so. Did you see the little you can't catch me down the Wellington Straits? Actually cost him a lot of time, has it, to Junior, and maybe Charles Wilkin has got something in the bag coming out now. Needs to try and get this done, Ryan. You said it before, needs to find it now if he does.
He definitely does need to find it, and, well, Morgan McCall catching back up to Van Rensburg now, so the pressure back on the second of the Hulk cars as both the AMG and the Aston Martin out front go wide, and Charles Wilkin has been consistently quicker than Junior McCall by 2 to 4 tenths of a second per lap for the last 5 laps, but he still doesn't have a way past the Mercedes. Of course, the Mercedes GT4 very quick in a straight line. The Aston Martin a bit more nimble in the corners here, and Silverstone, one of those very technical circuits, has a lot of straights and a few technical corners as well. It seems to favour the Aston Martin a bit more than the Mercedes, but it just seems like that power it has down the straights is enough to keep the Mercedes in front. As you can see, the frustration that Charles Wilkin has. Is he going to have a look on the inside? Doesn't have the space. Junior McCall overshoots the braking zone, though. He's caught on the exit, and Charles Wilkin's turned him. And he's going to pull over to the side to try and let Junior McCall back through. But what that means is Van Rensburg's going to take over the lead of the race. Morgan McCall's going to go through, and Vickers is now on the podium.
Good sportsmanship from Charles Wilkin. Little tap comes out, little bit of a mistake. It does slow things down. I think when the likes of McCall gets back up here, he will give the position back. Has allowed every car that was between them through. And it looks like Muton also going to be able to benefit out of this entire maneuver as well. So Wilkin will drop down the order quite heavily. And Junior McCall not yet on track again. Currently in 6th place is then behind the likes of Gian Muton. Will be looking to try and get his way through. And of course, Muton here in a bit of a maybe beneficial place, because I'm not quite sure how Wilkins going to handle these next couple of positions. He obviously wants to give the place back. Has indicated at the start that seems to be what he wants to do after the incident, but he continues to drive around now. So, you know, is that just a case of him waiting for Junior McCall to get back up towards that position before he hands it back, or should he be waiting all the way if that's to be a handover?
I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? Because, I mean, you don't want to slow yourself down to the point where you've let the entire field pass, and I can understand that point of view from Charles Wilkin. But obviously, if your intention is to give the place back, to show that you really didn't mean it, and I think that was generally what he was trying to do, you know, you kind of have to let as many people through as possible. And I think maybe Charles Wilkin showing that by letting the top 3 through, maybe thinking, well, you know, is that enough slowing down to potentially avoid a post-race penalty? I don't think it will be enough to avoid a post-race penalty, if there is one coming his way, because I get the feeling that he hasn't really lost, or he hasn't really given up the amount of time that Junior McCall lost. So yeah, it's going to be tricky to see how Charles Wilkin navigates all this. And of course he has got past Vickers now, so any intention he did have of giving a place back, I think, has probably gone now, unless he realizes that Junior McCall is much closer to him than he believes he is. What this does mean, though, however, George, is that we have a new battle for the lead, and roles are reversed now for Van Rensburg and Charles Wilkin.
So I think, you know, with that same incident, I think the stewards will be looking into things and being, you know, very critical of both cars' exits out through the little chicane, because again, if you're following that closely in racing and a mistake gets made out and contact comes in and gets deemed to be a racing incident, then, you know, those positions that Wilkins given past will then, you know, kind of play in his good books anyway. So again, it's hard to see from our point of view. We don't have the replays that our stewards do and the time to scrutiny and go through everything. And no talking about that for too long. As you mentioned, the battle for first and second has changed things up. 31, the number 31 and the number 199 will be those two cars to fight it out. And Ryan's already mentioned it, but of course the switch up. Team Hulk now by Van Rensburg. Big slipstream coming out for McCall, down out through Chapel and onto the hangers straight. Van Rensburg going to go to the outside. This is dangerous. This is going to allow the inside line, but does he outbrake himself? He does. What a drive coming out. He will move and lose at the same time. Van Rensburg uses the big brain IQ down the hangers straight and switches things up a little bit. McCall outbrakes himself, and that's now giving him a little bit of space. Wilkin also getting into shot now. So the chase begins. Team Hulk now with a very good shot of getting themselves up into a very good podium finishing position. Mark Van Rensburg has been here before. He hasn't not been used to the pressure from McCall. It's been like this since the start of the race, albeit the little numbers on the left side of their names have changed and the stakes have got higher. But the number 31, I feel like, knows the playbook right now of Morgan McCall, knows his strengths, knows where he likes to have a look, and that's a good thing to know coming up into the closing parts of the race and being in towards the front of the order and, you know, leading the race, in fact.
Yeah, it definitely, it's an ideal place to be in, isn't it? And you know, Van Rensburg, like you said, he's done this for about 27 minutes already, just has to do it for another 18 and a half. And how hard can it be? Well, the answer to that is very hard if you want the short answer, but I did love that from Van Rensburg towards Stowe. You know, I talk about it so much, the most underrated skill in sim racing, perception. You know, he perceived the fact that Morgan McCall had definitely overshot his braking zone, so he backed off early and just allowed him to go past, rolled back through on the cutback and maintained the position, and even gained a bit of breathing room out from it as well. So absolutely love that there, and a key example.
Ryan, this is you know, where do they try and go this time round? What does McCall do now?
Well, I think for McCall, he's tried a couple of times, hasn't he? Into Stowe. It hasn't quite worked out for him. Is he going to have a look now into Vale? He was on the inside, but then Van Rensburg decided to shift his car over to the left-hand side of the track, cut that off, and that's exactly what he needed to do. And I think for Morgan McCall, George, to answer your question, what does he need to do? Well, I mean, I don't like to say it, but I think he needs to wait for a mistake. I think he does have the pace, but
it doesn't feel like that mistake's coming. I agree with you. It feels like Mark van Rensburg writing a little PDF on how to defend here at Silverstone. He has the mistake potentially coming out. Both of them going very deep into that left-hander, which has allowed Wilkin again to start to close down. So Bego, one of the stewards in the chat says slowing down does not lessen your penalty. So, inside comes the likes of Morgan McCall. Van Rensburg is baiting him. He's saying, look at me, you can't have me. And Wilkin is starting to benefit of all of this behind it all. And the Team Hulk boys, like I said before, want to get themselves up into that 1-2 position if they can. They want to get this. And Morgan McCall under a lot of pressure. He's in a difficult space right now.
To be a bit tongue-in-cheek, do you think Van Rensburg is hoping that his teammate will have the same kind of affection for Morgan McCall that he had for Junior McCall earlier on in the race?
Very tongue-in-cheek indeed, and I think that he'll be praying that the likes of Wilkin gets caught up with McCall, because he knows that his teammate has no intention of letting him win this race. So if Wilkin gets past McCall, then Wilkin is going to be hunting for Van Rensburg as well. So it's not looking easy for Van Rensburg either. It's not a case of you've just got a team victory coming out, secured, an easy job done. He's going to stay defensive against Morgan and then worry about his own teammate behind him. And this battle for second and third between Wilkin and McCall is going to be interesting indeed. So in through the chicane they come out, and Morgan, very wide coming through, needs to be careful of not losing sight of the likes of Mark van Rensburg ahead, because he's kept him honest the whole race. He cannot afford to get caught up and get battled in with Charles Wilkin behind him. And maybe that's not actually up to him. Maybe the likes of Wilkin is just going to bring this battle to him regardless of the defenses that are there.
I was going to say for Morgan McCall, I mean, roles reversed right now, isn't it? He's been putting pressure on Van Rensburg the entire race, and now he's the one that finds himself in a Hulk sandwich. And I'm pretty sure it's a sandwich you'd rather not be in. Meanwhile, Junior McCall, who down in 6th place, still hasn't got past Muton in the BMW, by the way. So Junior McCall struggling to make his way back up the grid after the incident with Charles Wilkin. And yeah, not looking good for ATK right now, with the fact that, well, one of their cars that was leading the race now finds himself outside of the top 5. And then the other car that they have here in the race is kind of caught in the middle of a battle, well, for the win, for the podium. And they have no idea on which of these 3 spots, or neither of these 3 spots, that ATK car could be finishing in.
Exactly all of that. I mean, right now, do they play it safe, or Wilkin is going to be looking? I don't think you can play it safe. I think you have to stay on the attack. I think you have to try and see if you can get up into first place. Try and put the 8K Academy car up onto the top step of the podium. It's going to be a difficult cause if Van Rensburg has anything to do with it. He's made it so difficult from the start of this race to this phase. 13 minutes to go on the clock. Wilkin running very wide out through Stowe. Will carry a lot of speed coming down into... Oh, look at that. Look at that. Morgan McCall is in a lot of pressure, under a lot of pressure. Van Rensburg does run a little bit wide as well, which has allowed Morgan to get one car length closer. But Charles Wilkin, he's eager to have a look on the inside. If that gap is also left, I think they've all established that you leave it open on taking it. All the drivers here, a little bit of elbows out from the start. And where does Morgan try and go? The little backup coming out from Team Hulk might squeeze Morgan out to the outside. Inside for Wilkin. This could work out for Team Hulk. This is the drive that Wilkin needs. Out through Aintree now. This could be the position switch up. And just like you mentioned, this is not what ATK Academy needs. They've been robbed out. And good teamwork coming out from those two Lumo Aston Martins.
It's not over yet, though, because Morgan McCall on the inside, and he's got contact with Charles Wilkin as well, and then there's more contact between the likes of Wilkin.
Are fully out. I told you that there's definitely no. I want to say there's no bad blood, but it feels like there was a bit of bad blood. But at the same time, I wanted to say
there's no love lost between these.
No love lost. That is exactly the expression that I wanted to see. And stewards will be looking hard into all the incidents that have been caused out here. And I think that Wilkin then is going to lose out. Vickers going to come up into second, but then will immediately lose that position back out to Maggots. Bago, one of our stewards, like I said before, comments in the chat, there goes my weekend. He always says, please don't let this happen. Morgan, big track cut coming out through there. Drive-through going to be given to him as well for that track cut. Morgan McCall in a lot of trouble, and got to be careful of the red mist now at this stage, Ryan. You've got to know that he does not want to get himself into a bad situation. He's got that drive-through, needs to take it easy, cannot look to get any sort of revenge racing out there, but he's doing a good job of closing down onto the back of Wilkin. We'll have to serve a drive-through at the end of this. Vickers has just seen his podium spots disappear in the sequence of a couple of corners.
If I'm Vickers, I love the mentality, right? I'm sticking well clear of this because it's about to go down. I like that mentality from the Camaro. He knows that there's a drive-through from McCall. He knows he's going to be on the podium, and there is contact.
Oh, there is a contact indeed coming out. McCall will seemingly come into Can we risk a replay of this with our frozen?
I will try, and I think we have got a replay.
Okay, so let's see what happens there, Ryan. Take us away.
So, Morgan McCall chasing down the likes of Charles Wilkin here, closing on. And what exactly happens here? Does he miss his braking point? Oh, he clips the curb on the inside and takes out Charles Wilkin. Turns him around. Oh, and, he'll come to serve his drive-through penalty, so Charles Wilkin will get the place back, I suppose. George, this is one of those days where I'm glad I'm not a steward.
This is one of those days I'm glad I'm not a steward either. I feel like some of these incidents are going to be the hot front topic of some sim racing news here in South Africa, because there are some certainly weird situations coming down into what is led up to be a very strange change out for the likes of Chris Vickers. Up into second again. He just gets the taste of that new champagne lap after lap coming through. So Junior McCall down to fourth. He's also behind Mooten, who's now into third. Van Rensburg well up the line, 3.4 seconds ahead of the likes of Chris Vickers. Gian Newton in third place there is now going to be pressured by Junior McCall. And then Charles Wilkin will be trying to climb back up.
Well,
Bago in the chat, Ryan, he's said that the head steward job is available. Applications here.
no, thank you, Bago. I appreciate the offer, but there is a reason why when Mike Jones handed the steward's room key to me, I threw it in the toilet and flushed it away because I didn't want to see it again. And speaking of not wanting to see it again, I think that Junior McCall is quite fed up of the BMW mutant. He's going to want to get past him and not see it again, but the BMW M4, he's got different ideas about this and has more torque coming out of the corners and will stay ahead of the Mercedes. And Junior McCall, all of a sudden, has a very familiar Aston Martin in his mirrors again.
Very familiar Aston Martin indeed. Charles Wilkin has got back into this. Now will be behind Junior to now try and get past. Newton will love the fact that he's got a little bit of a block assistance in terms of making sure that Junior now has something to play with instead of him. On board with Junior McCall, as we will see him try and find his line out. Doesn't look 100% comfortable coming out through the right-hander of Cops and onto the brakes. Wilkin goes quite early, in fact, before the Maggots-Beckett's complex, and he's trying to find a way to get past Junior, carry some speed, maybe get a double move done onto Newton. 7 minutes left to go. Doesn't have a lot of time to do everything, but if he does manage to slingshot himself past the two cars in front, that will be a podium finish coming out. So it's all up to play now for this. Very slow goes Junior on the brakes out through the right-hander. Charles Wilkin effortlessly seemed to not collide there. Felt like we were inside the rear diffuser of that ATK number 144 for a portion of that, but somehow they will come out of that on top.
I was about to say Charles Wilkin almost had a very awkward situation on his hands of he'd have to try to explain to the stewards how he turned Junior McCall around twice in the same race, and fortunately not having to have that conversation, but he is on the back of Junior McCall. And that ATK Mercedes does not look too confident, but he will turn him around for the second time in the same race. And this time, he'll turn himself around as well for good measure. And Charles Wilkin, well, the day's gone from bad to worse, hasn't it, George?
It has indeed gone from bad to worse. It feels like the race up towards the front, what started out to be just the sort of textbook battle between two big teams that have been racing out in the series, has turned into a little bit of some elbows out bumper cars situations for a lot of the portion of the battles that we've caught up today. So not always the greatest thing to have to see on track, because these are the guys that you obviously look up to be sort of the top tier racers in their divisions. This is the pro tier. So a bit of a mixed bag of emotions, some interesting situations. I'm sure that there's some perspectives that we are not quite aware of just as broadcasters, but I think the picture is painted out itself, that sometimes there's frustrations out there, and I must be honest, as of late there's been more situations with drivers involved with one another than there has been during the recent sort of start of when I've gotten into it. So yeah, bit of a strange situation coming into the end. Sebo Malorto giving us a nice little battle here with Mr. Hannes van Veek. I believe this will be Kai K's lead driver and owner. That number 808 fighting it out with one of the BWR drivers. And again, shout out to all the BWR fans. I know that they've got a lot of drivers entered out into the series. Onto the inside, Van Veek will try and look. Malorto going to be squeezed onto the outside of the right-hander. Can the number 27 BMW get the run down? Does have a neat and tidy exit through. Malorto will have the inside now for the chicane. Hannes van Veek going to look to see if he can carry a little bit more momentum, though. A much bigger sweeping line comes through, but I think the 808 of Malotto has those cards read as well. So we'll hold on to the position. So Malotto stays in 11th place, and a good showing from Malotto, considering he was struggling with the qualifying side of things at the start, but good showing. And I think that Hannes van Veek still has a little bit left in the tank to try and get BWR up a little bit higher.
Well, I can tell you one thing for sure, George, as we have just over 3 minutes of this race left, is that this is going to be a stewarding nightmare to dissect over the course of however long it will take to go through all of this. Bego ZA in the chat, obviously my condolences to you, and I hope that it doesn't take too many hours away from your weekend, but like you said, George, it's not really what we want to see. Maybe all of them are genuine mistakes, and obviously there is no foul harm, in any of these incidents, but you kind of look at it and you kind of think a few people lost their heads today.
100% agree with you. I mean, I think they're going to argue that a lot of mistakes were made. Hannes van Veek very close on to Malotto. Maggotsbeck, it's not a place that it's easy to make a move if you don't have the line on the inside of every apex. And Hannes van Veek going to try and see if he can squeeze Malotto into making it. But to touch on the subject, yeah, it's not something that you want to see. It's going to be a stewarding nightmare for the guys to have a look into. And again, you're going to see the move perhaps on the inside. Malotto got a good exit out through here the last time. They will give each other some nice room, some nice side-by-side battles going down here to try and get into 11th is Hannes van Veek. Sebo Malotto still hangs the nope rope in front of him and will not allow him past for now. Has to hold on for another minute and 30 seconds. So some good drives coming out. Gian Mutin also up at the front for KK Racing in third place there. So good showing out for KKR so far, benefiting off a lot of the shenanigans happening out on track in front.
Yeah, and big shout out to Mutin and Vickers, of course. I mean, kept out of trouble, didn't they? And took advantage of the opportunities that came their way, and they're looking to round out tonight's race with a podium for their troubles. And it's exactly what you love to see, don't you, George? Maybe they didn't quite have the pace to challenge for a podium, but they've managed to earn that podium on merit by staying clean, staying out of trouble, and being where they needed to be when it mattered most.
You have to be in the right place at the right time to be able to do so, and it's exactly that. Ryan Ottens, also another KK driver, getting in on this in 13th place now, but is closing down on the number 12. Leaders on the final lap, so Mark van Rensburg will lead us out here, and the battles here will continue. They'll still have this entire lap to complete before they get the checkered flag, and that's going to give the opportunities out here for KK to potentially get themselves a nice little 11-12 on the on the timing sheet. So we'll see the race timer tick down to 0. Maggots and Beckett's gonna be where it's all decided for the hanger straight. Ryan Ottens looked like he had some good drive initially, but maybe losing out through Chapel. It will be that BMW power down at the back of the hanger straight again. The number 27, can he make it work on the inside this time round? Malotto has found some sort of midline speed angle that he just loves to hang on to. Gives him the inside line coming out through. And the number 27 again, going to try now to see where he can go. Malotto onto the brakes. Does Ottens come through? He does go alongside the number 27. The cutback potential going to be there for Ottens. Hannes van Veek needs to be careful he doesn't lose out through here. Ottens over the back of that BMW M4, and they will drag it down past the old start-finish straight. The F1 pit box, and the number 27 under a lot of pressure. Mark van Rensburg from Team Hulk will be our lead and winning driver from Team Hulk. He's done a good job. We'll switch immediately back, though, to see, because Ottens has got the move done. Hannes van Veek, the mistake has been made. Kaike Racing getting themselves up and through. That's going to be big work from them. Nice work as well. Hannes van Veek will have to settle back. BWR not going to be entirely happy with that on the last lap coming through. It will be Chris Vickers to take home second place. Haven't seen him on the podiums before. Not even sure if Vickers is a new entry coming out because I'm not familiar with the name. But Gian Mouton also up on the podiums in third place. Junior McCall will find fourth place eventually. Wilkin takes home fifth. Sixth place to Mornay Deploy. Warren Sheehan in seventh. Mike McGear takes home eighth. Ninth to Morgan McCall, 10th to Stephen to Blanche, Malotto 11th, Ottens 12th, 13th to Van Veek, Paolo takes home 14th, and we get a look at our winning number 31 Team Hulk Aston Martin with a beautiful sunset at the back of Silverstone as our timer ticks down. And that will conclude our racing action for this evening out here at Silverstone, of course, for the Raceface Round 4 of the Season 2 of the GT4 Championship. A big shout out, of course, to you, Ryan. Thank you for joining. Thanks for helping out. Do you have any last closing words for the viewers?
Well, it's been absolutely crazy here today. And, of course, if you have enjoyed what you've seen here today, of course, do feel to leave a like and subscribe to Raceface. The guys here do a phenomenal job in their little community to bring the best racing they can, and of course I'm very grateful for the opportunity to come here and commentate, and of course big thank you for having me here in the box tonight, George, and I'm looking forward to, well, tomorrow night for the GT3s who are going to be here at Silverstone, and I'm looking forward to next week as well for the GT4s.
Exactly that. We'll see you guys tomorrow night for the GT3s at Silverstone. Thanks for joining us. And if you haven't left a subscribe, leave one, and we'll see you tomorrow.